Let me first thank the organizers of this symposium, and Mr. Mark Donfred, and thank you all participants for coming, for showing their interest in this symposium. It's not my first time here in this institute, but the first time I'm making a presentation. To be honest, when I was proposing the topic, I was a little bit hesitant and wondering if I'm not going to offend someone or to be arrogant, because there are perhaps many places and countries in the world which are also similarly proud of their cultural diversity. But in any case, I believe that the experience of my country is worth of sharing, and could be indeed a good sample and proof that there is no alternative to intercultural, interreligious dialogue if you want to live in peace and security. All religions show that humankind the right way to the truth. The ideas of unity, justice, and spiritual perfection are equally essential for Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, and others. These are, in fact, solid internal values, I believe, which survive over the crises, wars, and conflicts of any type. So my objective today is to talk about multiculturalism in Azerbaijan, which has been cherished for centuries. Why Azerbaijan? Historically multi-ethnic and multi-confessional country, Azerbaijan today enjoys the stability and development. The ethnic and the religious tolerance is supported at the state level, and the national and the religious diversity is regarded as a treasure of the country. The state-religion relations are also at a high level, despite that Azerbaijan is a secular state. I think that there are several factors which actually provide a solid ground for multiculturalism in Azerbaijan. This is I divided in three parts. The natural factor, it's about the multinational region where Azerbaijan is situated. It's on the crossroads between east and west, and south and north. The second, I think, it's the human factor, which is about diversity of peoples and societies which live in the territory of Azerbaijan. Long-standing traditions of tolerance and respect, and multiculturalism in itself. And the third factor, it's as it could be called subjective. It's state policy and national legislation, international law, and institutional support. And I will, of course, will come to these factors in more details in just a few moments. Azerbaijan is as I said, it's having a unique advantages geographical situation. It's in the Caucasus, in the southern part of Caucasus. It's borders the Russian Federation in the north, in the west Georgia and Armenia, and in the southwest Turkey, and in the south Iran. And you see that the eastern part of Azerbaijan is on the Caspian Sea, and population is about more than 9 million. It's approaching 10. I think some customs are not of a lesser importance. Where in Azerbaijan believe 65% are Shias and about 35% are Sunnis. The second largest community is Christianity, basically represented by Orthodoxy, Catholicism, and Protestantism, as well as a number of minority communities. And we have the third huge community is Jews. Actually, Azerbaijan has been home to various beliefs, faiths, and religions, even in ancient times. Zoroastrianism was the main belief of people living in Azerbaijan centuries ago. This is one of the world's, oldest faith that remains active even nowadays. It's a monotheistic faith. I mean, this is the single creator God, centered in a dualistic cosmology of good and evil, and the prediction of the ultimate destruction of the evil. So here you see the picture of the religious leaders, so Muslim, Orthodox, and Jewish. So this is the, I mean, they all three persons, they get together and they participate in the religious and national holidays of all three religions. They participate in the Ramadan together, they participate in the Christian and Jewish holidays as well. So this is our tradition. All the three leaders go to celebrations. This is the typical Shia mosque in Baku. It's actually you see the traditional Shia minarets and the dome, and this is the typical for Shias, which they live basically in Azerbaijan, Iran, Iraq, and some other states. And we also have the Sunni-style mosque in Baku, so which are quite similar to mosques which we can find in Istanbul and other parts of Turkey. If we talk about Christianity in Azerbaijan, so we have to go back to the ancient times again. And so here you see the Albanian church of St. Eliseus in Nik, village called Nik in Azerbaijan. Actually, do not confuse Albania with the Albania in the Balkans. It's different things. So there was a state in the Caucasus which called the same Albania, and the main religion of that state was Christianity, and it was before Islam, and so we can find a lot of Albanian churches on the territory of Azerbaijan. And here if you see the Russian Orthodox Church. As I said, the Russians are the second religious minority in Azerbaijan. It's just in the center of the capital. And this is also the picture of the Russian folk group from the town of Ivanovka. It's in the western part of Azerbaijan. Actually, this is the Christian sect called Malakans, and it goes back to the beginning of the 19th centuries when this sect was persecuted in the Russian Empire, and the Russian side decided to expel these people to the borders of the Russian Empire, and some people came to Azerbaijan, and so they settled from that time. And we have also the Catholic Church. This is the typical Lutheran church in the heart of the city Baku, Church of the Savior. And this is another story, and I have to tell perhaps in more details about how Germans appeared in Azerbaijan. This is the second church of German church, Lutheran church, but this is in the western part of Azerbaijan. Actually, the atmosphere of tolerance came to the fore in the beginning of the 19th century when first German immigrants came to the South Caucasus, to Azerbaijan and as well to Georgia. So German settlers from Schwaben, it's now modern Stuttgart, Ulm, and Reutlingen in Bayern, arrived in the western Azerbaijan. They finally made the decision to settle and made these fertile lands their home. It was the Russian Tsar Alexander I who bestowed the name Helenendorf upon the German settlement in memory of his sister Helen Pavlovna, who had died at an early age. Today this town has another name, but previously it was Helenendorf. And the government, the Russian government at that time required that newcomers should be good craftsmen, farmers, specializing either in wine growing or silk production or cattle breeding. Also, the new settlers have to have families, children. This was the requirement of their settlement in the borders of the Russian Empire. But why the Germans, you can ask, why the Germans had decided to leave their homeland and to come to the quite far to the South Caucasus, to Azerbaijan? Actually, there were two reasons which influenced their decision. The primary factor was the dire political situation in the southern provinces of Germany at that time, especially as a consequence of the Napoleonic Wars. And basically it caused also the great movement of Germans to North America as well. But some decided to come to the lands of the Russian Empire, and especially to the South Caucasus, because of the similarities of the climate, because of the fertile lands and hospitality of the people, and and also there was a reason that some Germans were persecuted because of their religious beliefs, and especially the Schwabs believed that there will be the Antichrist would soon appear, and the place of salvation would be in the mountain, which is in the Caucasus, and that's why they wanted to be close to that mountain. So during their living in Azerbaijan, the German population preserved their mother tongue, natural, cultural, and ethnographic features, the style of Gothic in their constructed buildings, and you see this is typical style, German style. And German colonists have never forgotten traditions, always celebrated national and religious holidays with their traditional dresses and national cuisine. And also there was a cultural center in the Hellenendorf, which included theater, sports associations, orchestra, library, etc. So the German population had religious freedom in Azerbaijan as any other representatives. And they started work, and they lived peacefully in Azerbaijan and made their valuable contribution to the development of the country. So a few examples, just there are a lot of German architects. For instance, there are German farmers, and it's necessary to mention also Siemens, which came to Azerbaijan. They established the companies in Baku, and there were even newspapers in German language. And just an example is Bauer und Arbeiter, which was established in 1930. Was in German language and published in Azerbaijan. And there was also an ethnological museum which was opened in Hellenendorf by archaeologist Hummel. The next community is the Jewish community. So we have two types of Jewish communities in Azerbaijan. The first one is the ancient and traditional is called mountain Jews. So different theories have been brought forward regarding the origin of the mountain Jews and the exact date of their settlement in the Caucasus. So the commonly accepted theory that mountain Jews came from Persia and possibly with Byzantine Empire. And so this is perhaps in the very, very ancient times, like 6th, 7th century after Christ. And they speak the dialect, distinct dialect of the Tat language. It's called Juhuri or Juda Tat. And also the majority of the Jews, they speak Azeri and Russian. So this is the picture of the town's Red Slobodka in the northern part of Azerbaijan. So this is the unique place because in the world there has two examples when Jews live in a compact area. So apart from Israel and United States, this is the third place in the world where Jews live like this in a separate village. So this is all the village where the Jews live, and this is quite huge. And the second, and this is the picture of you see the Jewish women from the Guba region, from the same village. It's a picture taken in the 19th century. And the second Jewish community is the Ashkenazi Jews. So 1911 is the year when the first Ashkenazi Jews settled in Baku. But their mass migration happened after the 1970s. And after that period, so the Ashkenazi Jews outnumbered the traditional mountain Jews. So Ashkenazi Jews mostly settled in the then booming oil-rich city of Baku. And just an example, the Caspian Black Sea Company, one of the leading oil companies of the Russian Empire, was established in Baku by the wealthy Rothschild family of German Jewish origin. Ashkenazi Jews continued immigrating to Azerbaijan until the 1940s, and the next flow was forced because of the Second World War, and a lot of Jews were evacuated from the German occupied territories of Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia. So they came to Azerbaijan, and after the end of the Second World War, they decided to stay in Azerbaijan and not to return back to the place they came. Another interesting story that, so this is one of the pictures, again, the synagogue in the town of Red Slobodka. The northern part of Azerbaijan. It's interesting, part of our history is the Azerbaijan Democratic Republic. It existed 2 years, 1918 till 1920. Now this year we're still celebrating the 100th anniversary of the first democratic republic in the east, Azerbaijan Democratic Republic. And you know that after the Socialist Revolution, 1917, so the Russian Empire collapsed, and in the place of the old Russian Empire, several new states emerged, and one of them was the Azerbaijan Democratic State. And it was a really democratic and parliamentary state, and we are all very proud of that. So, because during the very short period for 2 years, the Azerbaijan Democratic Republic took very important decisions in all areas, in all social, cultural areas, in human rights. Actually, it was the first time when the women had the voting right. So I think it's even in the West, which it happened in the 1950s, 1960s, even later. But during the time of the Democratic Republic, women, the Muslim women, were entitled to vote. And this is the great achievement, and where we think that we have a good, very rich political heritage. And nowadays, our Azerbaijani new Azerbaijan is based on the values and principles which were cherished during the Azerbaijan Democratic Republic. And you see here actually this is from the poster. We're going to have a celebration here in Berlin on the 7th November. And this is just a picture of the Cabinet of Ministers. So this is the, actually, you can see that these persons are from the intelligentsia. They're highly educated persons. They're the different ministers. Actually, before they served in the Russian Empire, but during the days of Democratic Republic, they came back to their motherland and they decided to serve the national government. And among them, there were a lot of other nationalities, and one of the examples is that the Dr. Yevsey Gindes, who was a Minister of Health. He's Jewish, and there were also the member of the parliament who was a German. His name was Lorenz Kuhn. Unfortunately, I don't have his picture. But in the first Azerbaijan Democratic Republic, in the parliament of the Democratic Republic, many nationalities were represented. And among them, as I said, Germans, Polish, Georgians, and all those who lived at that time in Azerbaijan. But unfortunately, the story of the Democratic Republic did not last more than 2 years. And you know that when the civil war ended in the Russian Empire, they turned their eyes to the former parts of the Russian Empire, and in May 2000, in April 1920, the Russian troops crossed the border and they just arrived in Baku, and so the government was changed, and Bolsheviks, communists took the power in the government. So this is unfortunately was the end of the short life of the Azerbaijan Democratic Republic. But as I said, this is our historical heritage, and we're trying to continue after the gaining independence in 1991. We regain our independence because we believe that the first Azerbaijani statehood started in 1918. As I mentioned in the beginning, we have a lot of that there. I just perhaps repeat myself that there are about at the moment more than 20 nationalities in Azerbaijan, such as Russians, Lezgins, Tats, Talysh, Armenians, Jews. And what's interesting, many of them live compactly, as I said, as I showed you. For instance, Jews in the town of Red Sloboda, Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh, Molochans in the village of Ivanovka, Udins is also the Christian minority in the village of Niy. They all have their practice, and they have and practice their own languages, specific customs and traditions. Many ethnic minorities are represented in the present parliament and the government of the Republic of Azerbaijan. There are also secondary schools operating in Azerbaijani language, as well as Russian and Georgian languages. And besides, there are also about 100 schools where the study is in Lezgin language. The Lezgins are also the minority in Azerbaijan. And also the teaching of native language in Avar, Kurdish, Lezgin, Talysh, Tat, Udi, organized in the primary schools, which in some regions were densely populated by national minorities. In 2003, the Jewish secondary school teaching Hebrew, Jewish history and culture was opened in Baku. Russian language is also almost the second language in Azerbaijan, and we have a lot of schools in Russian, and the alphabets, educational curricula, and other textbooks are published in Russian, as well as Avar, Talysh, Kurdish, Lezgin, Tat, Udi, etc. More than 15 newspapers and magazines are published in the languages of national minority living in Azerbaijan. Regular programs financed by the state budget are broadcasted in Kurdish, Lezgin, Talysh, Georgian, Russian, and Armenian languages. And 5 local TV and radio channels operate in the regions densely populated by national minorities. So when we come to the, as I mentioned in the beginning, so to the subjective factors, so we have, apart from the human factors, objective factors, I mean the geographical situation, the history and the tolerance of our people, we have also the subjective factor, which is actually based on the state policy and the law. So the ideals of multiculturalism are promulgated in the country's policy documents, in the strategies, state programs, presidential decrees, laws and regulations. So there are several state agencies which are directly involved in preservation and promotion of intercultural values. We have also a solid legislative basis. You see that first of all, it's Constitution of the Republic of Azerbaijan, which has 5 explicit articles referring to the right of minorities, right of freedom of conscience, and the right to equality, language, tongue, and generally about religion and state. So we have also the Criminal Code of the Republic of Azerbaijan, which actually prohibits any discrimination. And we have, so I think we just missed some, sorry. Azerbaijan is a part to many international treaties. Azerbaijan has signed and ratified more than 50 international documents, both within the United Nations and the Council of Europe, and also OSCE. And here are the examples of the legal documents to which Azerbaijan is a party. And the question is, again, why to go for multiculturalism? Why Azerbaijan selected this way of development? Because there are other examples of mono-ethnic existence or perhaps some others. But why Azerbaijan likes this idea? I think we in Azerbaijan believe that this is the multiculturalism is some sort of medicine against various social diseases like discrimination, racism, intolerance. And at the same time, we witness nowadays the rise of radicalism and extremism, and the multiculturalism is also the tool to fight this phenomena. It's also the tool for sustainable development in the name of peace and stability. And it's a basis for better communication and cooperation to avoid conflicts and wars and violence. And also it's a way to preserve cultural and historical heritage and to keep pace with changes of dynamics in social economic life. And it's simply Azerbaijan's natural choice. It's simply the choice which Azerbaijan and people of Azerbaijan chosen for centuries, and this is our way. We need for the future, but it's not the question is how to keep these values and how to not to stop, but to continue in the right way. So we cannot just be satisfied with the present situation. We have to develop We have to keep this process as it is. And for this, I think it's important, first of all, to ensure the stability and continuity of multicultural safety, multicultural society. And of course, here the role of the state is very important, and the state institutions have to create an environment for political stability, for multiculturalism, for freedom of religion, for interconfessional dialogue. And also, it's very important to fight against any signs. I'm not saying about the complete phenomenon, but any signs of radicalism, extremism, and to look into the roots of the problem. And the idea is to promote these values not only within the country, not only within Azerbaijan, but beyond the borders. And we want that to share our experience with other states, with other governments, and if they see that it's useful, we can cooperate, and we can bring our expertise to our friends. And we have we try to be active in this field, and as Mark Donfried mentioned, we actually in the recent 10 years, Azerbaijan has been very active in the promotion and the propaganda, I would say, in the good word, of the ideas of multiculturalism and peaceful coexistence. And so we have Azerbaijan is a place where a lot of events, international events, have taken place, especially during the last 10 years. And the start was in 2008, when we had international conference in Baku, where with the support of various organizations like the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations, Council of Europe, European Union, UNESCO, ISESCO, World Tourism Organization, and so they all got gathered in Baku, and this launched the Baku process. And this Baku process means that it's starting the new era in the politics of multiculturalism. And since that, we held a lot of events for every 2 years we have a World Forum on Intercultural Dialogue. In 2015, we had the 7th Forum of Alliance of Civilizations. We had European Games, first European Games in Baku. First Islamic Solidarity Games. We have the Formula One Grand Prix each year, starting from 2016. European Song Contest, everybody knows, and in 2012 it was in Baku. And we're going to have Europe League's final in Baku in May next year. So all this, it's not about sport, or it's not about music, but it's about the politics of peace and development, and mutual understanding and respect. That's why the main objective of all this is, and our enthusiasm to contribute to uniting peoples, nations, and to oppose violence, extremism, and to promote reconciliation and tolerance. It's our belief that only these internal values could save the world, and there's no alternative to multiculturalism if you want, as I mentioned in the beginning, to live in peace, in stability and security. And finally, I just would like to mention that as a continuation of these efforts, we're going to have a conference on intercultural, interreligious dialogue here in Berlin on November 19, and you're all welcome. And so this conference is organized by the Baku Center for Interreligious Intercivilizational Dialogue, together with the Embassy of Azerbaijan and I'm grateful to the ICD as they generously agreed to be a partner in that event, and I think it would be a next success in the story of multiculturalism, not only for us but for everybody. That's all, and thank you for your patience. And if you have questions, please, I'm ready.
Questions or comments? If you could raise your hand and then maybe stand up just so we can hear you, and also briefly introduce yourself so we know where you're coming from. Ladies first.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Kalila. I'm from the U.S. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about Azerbaijan's relationship with Russia and whether the Putin administration has caused any fault lines in the multiculturalism that you're talking about, whether they're maybe play favorites with Christian Orthodoxy or just have that relationship with?
Thank you. Yeah, we have very good relations with all neighbors, except Armenia, which have a conflict over the Nagorno-Karabakh territory. But with the rest of the neighbors, we have very beautiful relations, including the Russian Federation, where we managed to we are flexible, and I think, in terms of development of our cultural and our political, economic relations, and with Russia, our biggest neighbor, and we have traditional links with the Russian Federation, with the people of Russia, and a lot of events, conferences. For instance, there's also the Baku Humanitarian Forum, which taking place every year. This is the initiative by our president and Ilham Aliyev and the president of former president Medvedev, and so every year people come to this conference to Baku from these are academicians, politicians, former government members, prime ministers, presidents. So this is as an example of our joint cooperation with the Russian Federation, and of course the majority of Christian community in Azerbaijan is Russians, and that's why we have very confessional cooperation. As you've seen in the picture, they are leaders of Muslim and Christian communities in Baku. So they are friends. They meet. They participate in various events, and of course, as a church, this is the Russian Orthodox Church, but politically they are separate. They belong to Azerbaijan, and so Azerbaijan as a state is to provide necessary protection and care to the Russian Orthodox community, as well as to other communities living in Azerbaijan. Yes, please.
My name is Nadine. I'm from Egypt, and I just want to ask, because we live in a world of religious conflict, and a lot of countries face this, and I just want to know how you achieved all these religions living together socially and interacting on a daily basis without any conflicts and without any problems.
Thank you. I think this is there are basically two, I don't know, maybe two main reasons. The first is the history, and we're actually, we are very close to the places of origin of all religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And so historically the people of these all three faiths, they live in Azerbaijan. So this is their motherland. So the Jews, the Azerbaijan's their land. We cannot say that you are migrants or you are incomers, outcomers. No, this is their land because they live here for centuries. And the same for Christians. They live here in Azerbaijan for centuries, and it's not new for us. I'm sorry for comparison, but for instance, for Europe, for Europeans, maybe it's just recently they just familiarized themselves with Muslims because usually they experience these Muslims. There were very often conflicts. The conflicts on the borders, the empires, they wanted to extend, to conquer, etc. And recently there are a lot of flows from Middle East, from African states to Europe, and this is, of course, that's out of a sudden, and it's difficult to understand, to apprehend the culture, different cultures. But in Azerbaijan, it was normal because if we see the church, if we see the Jewish synagogue, it's okay, and no one would say that why you construct a church in a Muslim state, because it's for us it's natural. And well, the second reason is I would say there's people. Okay, so perhaps this first. The second is the state policy, and of course the state policy is based on the people's desire and people's will, and the state policy is also the very open and friendly towards all communities. So we have, as I said, we have a lot of strategies, programs which aimed at improving the interconfessional relations, at cementing the achievements, at cementing the friendship, and we have laws, of course, which actually prohibit any discrimination, and it's very serious. It's taken very seriously, and also we are, as I said, members of the different international treaties, which we actually incorporated in the domestic law, and we, of course, it's from the legal point of view, all the rights and the freedoms of my national minorities are preserved. I think all these components together, they give the solid basis for having this intercultural, multiculturalism in Azerbaijan. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, hello. My name is Monika and I'm from Kosovo. You mentioned that the Democratic Republic lasted only for 2 years, and it was the first time when the women had their rights to vote. So what happened after the political system changed, or did they have the right to vote, or were they equal, or what changed throughout the years?
Okay, thank you. Yes, that's true. Yeah, it existed 2 years, 1918 till 1920, even just not 24 months, 23 months, and it stopped when Bolsheviks came. So the Democratic Republic tried to be to maneuver between the end of the First World War and their different powers, the Russian Empire, Ottoman Empire, Germans, British. They all had their own interest in our region, but this is 2 years was a period when these powers they fought each other, and so they just were busy with their own problems, and this was a chance to develop its own independence. So there was very 2 years gave us a very good chance to establish the first statehood in Azerbaijan, with all the attributes in terms of democratic institutions, rights, pluralism, and including the women's right. And yes, this right was given to women, and but unfortunately, as I said, it lasted just 2 years. And when Bolshevik came, of course they changed the government, so Azerbaijan became a part of the Soviet Union. And during the Soviet Union, yes, their rights were given to women as well as but within the communist ideology. And the new constitution was adopted in 1936, which also gave a lot of rights to men and women. But again, it was within the certain constraints. And of course, there are women in Azerbaijan. Certainly they gained certain freedoms, of course, there. But anyway, it wasn't independent Azerbaijan, it was the Soviet Union. Mhm.
Think in the back, there was someone?
My question is about your relation with Armenia. You said that your relation became worse after this Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. But I remember 10 years ago I was in Russia and there were a lot of Azerbaijani people and some Armenians. We were they still like each other and every time we were speaking, even they were not speaking with each other.
Mhm.
And we hate each you know, especially people of Armenia were claiming that Azerbaijan killed more than 5,000 people of our country 8 years ago. So now it is more than 100 years ago. So the problem is not only Nagorno-Karabakh, so there is dispute from many years. So my question is there any measure taken for eliminating, removing this dispute between the people, not only there is the government issue, but people hate each other. So is there any measure taken in this regard?
Mhm. Thank you. No, I think if I can start from the end, Azerbaijanis do not hate Armenians. That's not the case. We hate the Armenian policies of occupation. It's a different thing. We hate the policy of the government of Armenia, because we have the conflict, yes, and started in 1988, and it's more than already 30 years, yeah. And the problem is that this part of Nagorno-Karabakh territory was primarily dominated by Armenians, and also there were about 20-30% Azeris, and all Azeris were driven away, and now it's a mono-ethnic unity, and the separatists, they claimed independence. And apart from Nagorno-Karabakh, there are 7 other adjacent regions which are occupied by the Armenian forces. And so this is naturally has a, I would say, the protest or natural resistance in the hearts of Azerbaijanis, because we want our lands back. And we don't say that Armenians are our citizens, and as is mentioned, we still believe that the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh are our citizens, and there are also Armenians in Baku, about 40,000 Armenians, but mostly from the mixed families. But they are our citizens, and we cannot hate them, because they are our. We cannot hate ourselves, because these people are our citizens. But we hate the policies of occupation and aggression, which the Armenian government pursues, and of course we are ready to discussions, to negotiations within the OSCE Minsk group or within other framework. We want peace, we want stability, we want prosperity for all the region, not only for our country, because the prosperity of the region means prosperity for everyone. And that's why I cannot take this thesis, but I cannot talk about on behalf of Armenians, but I'm sure that there are persons in Moscow, and Armenians and Azerbaijanis, who have very good relations, friendship, business relations, etc. But it's about politics, and again, we hate the politics of occupation and aggression. That's all.
There was another hand in the back.
Thank you very much. My name is Yara Molla, and I'm a PhD student actually here at ICT with the University of West Scotland, dealing with the power of heritage in building peace, in integration, and in inclusion. My question to you is you talked about different minorities, different religious groups, and as a Syrian, we have also 86 different religious groups living together in Syria, and they lived for a long, long time. And if we look at the cultural values that we inherited from our heritage, we have the same background that it's not possible that these groups can fight one day out of the differences, because they really lived forever. And also Syria is a country that was open always to newcomers, Armenians, Azeris. We have everything there, and everybody used to live in peace. Like one thing that I noticed that, yes, we live together, but we needed more inclusive policies inside because, yes, we were there, but somehow the Muslim buy from the Muslim, the Christian buy from the Christian, especially I'm talking not with the intellect level of people, I'm talking on a normal majority of people with a minimum education. There was peace, but at the same time, everybody does what he does in his own community, and they don't interact unless at work or something. But that's it. How is the case in Azerbaijan? I mean, when you were talking about, as example, that you talked about the village, also the same thing with Christianity. So, is it like different religious groups live in a separate communities and they don't interact? Because I mean, as a Syrian and as somebody who is a scholar in this specific subject, it might be something that you need to look at. And also, my second question is how much this multiculturalism is reflected within the civil society, like how NGOs also are helping in bringing different minorities together or in promoting the concept of multiculturalism in different levels.
Thank you. Yes, in the beginning I just mentioned that I don't want to be, I would say, not overestimate or to be too self-confident or not to offend anyone, because I know that in many parts of the world there are good examples. As you say, Syria, I can say that. No, not now, but in the past year. But sometimes I think we can even encounter the faces of the examples of tolerance even nowadays. But for instance, other than Kazakhstan, it's also a multicultural, and a little bit Georgia and other states. But that's why I said that this is Azerbaijan could be an example, and just my idea is to present this, to share this with you. And we don't have. Perhaps I just focused more on the separate villages, but this is in case of Jews, this is that example. I think it's unique. If I don't know, maybe other countries, the Jews live in the village, in the town, small town. But they, of course, they live in Baku. They live in other cities, and personally, I graduated from the school in Baku, so my teachers, almost 90% were Jewish, and because it was it was national school, but teachers were Jewish, and they live in Baku, and most of them they left Azerbaijan after the collapse of the Soviet Union because of the economic reasons, and they moved to Israel and then to the United States, to Europe. But this is it's not related to they all liked Azerbaijan even nowadays. I think they have good memories of their lives in Baku. And the same with Christians. This is the Ivanovka was the case of the Christian sect, the Malakans. But the other Russians, so Georgians, they live in various parts of Azerbaijan, Baku, Ganja, another city. Georgians live more close to the border between Azerbaijan and Georgia, and the Talysh live in the south. It's a traditional place of the Talysh. That's the name of the Lezgins live in the north, close to the Russian border. So this is the traditional locations. But of course, the representatives, the intelligentsia, the academicians, teachers, scientific doctors, they're all in Baku as a capital and other major cities. As regards the NGOs, civil society, yes, this is of course, the very important element, because the one thing it's when the government says or presents something, but another thing when the NGOs, civil society, meet and discuss and raise the problems, the issues, and how to solve these problems. This is very important, and that's why in Azerbaijan the civil society, the NGOs are functioning very freely, and we have NGOs who are specialized in in the protection and promotion of the rights of minorities and religious communities. And so they, of course, they meet, they discuss, they have seminars, conferences. And as a government official, I can say that at the moment, please treat me as an academician, not a government official. But in this particular question, I would say that the government of Azerbaijan, we have even the, I would say, not instruction, but circular or something like this. So we invite almost all governmental agents meetings. We invite participants from the NGO, whether it's a state commission or committee or some ad hoc working groups. So the task is invite also the representatives of the NGOs, because sometimes the things which government officials cannot or don't want to say, the NGOs would say. That's why we work together, and especially in the area of protection of the rights of minorities. Thank you.
Any other questions? In that case, let's express our gratitude once again for excellent presentation.
Thank you.